This is Umar Ahmed for IFL TV, proudly sponsored by Everlast. I'm with the power man at Wasserman, Kalle Sauerland.
I love the name change. It's 2022. We have a new name in the house. I like that. So we've gone from Don Kalle to the power man. Fantastic. I'll take them all. Keep them coming. How are you, Umar?
I'm good, thank you, Kalle. We're here in Cardiff. Obviously, I tried to get an interview in London, but Chelsea played Tottenham about 3 times in a week and a half.
I left you a very distinct message. I did say, and unfortunately it was 2 legs, so you got 4 weeks of me blocking you on my phone in between the games. What a disaster. What a disaster. But we've had so many bad years down the bridge that, let's rather not talk about Chelsea-Tottenham today.
Okay, I was going to mention ZX goal, but...
Still very sore. Still very, very sore. Still very, very sore.
All right, Kalle, I'll let you off. We'll talk about some boxing then. 2 days out, a much-anticipated clash. Something that perhaps could have been put on pay-per-view. It's got that slight feel, but great for the fans that it's on a normal Sky Sports fight night. This is going to be huge, isn't it? And it's guaranteed to be a barnstormer, Eubank Jr. and Williams.
I think first of all, you're totally right. With the right card, I'm sure it could and would have been a pay-per-view in the past, and I think that the way the negotiations went around this fight, this has been a long time coming. This fight in the background, we had obviously the delay with the Williams injury. Then there was 2 weeks ago we weren't even sure if we could do it in Cardiff. So there's been so much uncertainty. It feels like we've been through 12 rounds just to get here, but. Not that I would know how 12 rounds feels like, but very excited. I said earlier, for me, and I've said it all through the build-up, for me it's all, I grew up watching the Bens, the Eubanks, the McClellans, McClellan-Ben, obviously, tragic fight, but a fight that we'll always remember. Those nights, those of very packed venues, Watson, Steve Collins, and just these legendary throwback fighters and characters who were, the build-ups were always intense, but they were so real, sometimes almost too real. And today you had the press conference. I thought the press conference, there was some needle there. There's been needle there for 2.5 years with them, 2.5 years. But the most interesting part was there was the face-to-face. And when that face-to-face was finished, I've sort of gone in and said, all right, end of the face-to-face. And Williams reacted very, very aggressively towards Eubank, and fair enough, that can happen. But you saw, once again, Eubank, that cool as a cucumber. I've seen it before with the Turkish fans with Yildirim. I've seen it in other fights. He has that game mode. And I don't see a difference in his mentality, I want to say well-being, let's say frame of mind before a fight, whether it's a tune-up or a huge fight, whether it's De Gale, a Groves, Saunders, a Yildirim fight, all the big fights in the past. There's no difference between that mentality, almost, or that mindset, or a tune-up which he's had in the last couple of fights, adopting to the style of training with Roy Jones. You don't really get him out of his. He determines the pace of the mood almost, and he's very good at that. He's fantastic at that, and I think that frustrated Williams today. And you saw Liam lose it at the end a bit. And I tell you something, the weigh-in face-to-face, it's going to be hot stuff. It's going to be hot stuff. We've got a lot of security there. It's going to be hot stuff. Probably not quite as hot as the atmosphere on Saturday night, though, in the venue. I'm sure that the Welsh fans will make themselves heard, and I'm very excited.
Yeah, that has been a talking point, how we all deal with, the hostile environment. But as you just referred, when he fought Yildirim, he walked through that Turkish crowd like he was just strolling in Brighton.
Like walking through the sea, it sort of parted for him. It was crazy.
And that is really hostile Turkey. We know that.
It did that. I'm sure it's going to be hot stuff on Saturday night, but we don't need any Bengalo flames and welcome to hell banners and things like that. But he had that, in the Yildirim fight. He went through that. But he is, if there is a poker face in boxing, it's Junior, and that often gets mistaken for arrogance. There's no Chris Eubank Jr. isn't arrogant. He is a very focused individual. To draw a comparison in football, I think a lot of people, I think it's less and less, but Cristiano Ronaldo, often mistaken for arrogance, but he is just a determined individual who has managed to get to the top of his sport and stay there for a hell of a long time. If you ask me the difference between Messi and Ronaldo, I would always say Ronaldo, because he's got that little bit of extra push about him, aside from the talent. Eubank has fought his way through every fight, often alone. Now he has Roy Jones in his corner, but I'm sure we're going to see some interesting things tomorrow night or Saturday night. Liam Williams brought in Adam Booth, of course. Fantastic trainer. I would just say 5, what have they worked together, 5 weeks, 6 weeks? And someone was saying to me, well, what about the strategies and this, that and the other? Now, Adam is one of the best strategy makers in the business, but there's no strategy that you can really implement in a fighter in the space of 5 weeks. I just don't believe it. I believe you can do it for a few rounds, but I do believe that when the pressure comes on, you go back to doing what you're not used to doing. And I think that the early rounds, will be surprisingly cagey. I think that you'll see Junior doing things that Jones has taught him. I think you'll see things that Liam Williams that Adam Booth has taught him in this short space of time. And then I think it'll be sort of down to something will happen, and it'll be down tools, and it will be Atom, and it will be a throwback, absolutely gung ho fight. And there I only see one man standing at the end of it, and that's Eubank Jr.
Well, about 48 hours till we find that out. How's this dynamic going? Obviously, we know Chris Eubank Jr. is on a deal with you. You're using Sky Sports at the moment as his platform. Obviously, Boxer have got their deal with Sky Sports. So you're doing your co-promotional stuff with them. How's that dynamic going, and how's it going for Junior?
I mean, it's early days, isn't it? I mean, it's our first, let's say, big fight with Eubank as part of the partnership. We do it. It's not the only time that happens in boxing. We have a similar setup with Dazn and Matchroom with Hrgovic, and he will take time to get everything. You're always different, especially when you're working with new people. But the platform we have on Saturday is second to none. I mean, free to air, Eubank Williams on Sky is what a way to start the year. And I mean, from a Sky Sports point of view, I mean, what a fantastic February that is, And I think that is also when you see there's obviously Top Rank involved there as well. So when you see different promoters working together, the quality that can come out of it, it's and it is probably the strongest month I've seen on Sky, and that's they've clearly thought, what do we do with boxing? Do we leave it now post Matchroom? And they've said no, we're going to go for it, and they've thrown everything at it. The promo up to this fight has been fantastic. I was obviously like most people watching a lot of football over the festive period. Every half time, Eubank Jr. Every half time, every full time, Eubank Jr. The trailers, the behind, the off the gloves is nothing new, but I just think that they've fully got behind the sport, and that's a great thing for anyone in boxing. So that's something that we have to stand up and applaud. And boxing is in a fantastic place, not just in the UK, just generally at the moment. Heavyweight boxing last year, I think, had one of the best years yet since the sort of Lewis Holyfield Bowe era. You tell me a year where we saw those two big fights last year. I mean, if you look at it, we were all hoping for Fury Joshua. We ended up with Fury Wilder and AJ Usyk, and actually those two fights, hey, we don't know how Joshua Fury would have been, or Fury Joshua would have been, but I think it was such a fantastic year for heavyweight boxing, and the emergence of, people like Filip Hrgovic, obviously Dillian Whyte, long-term campaigner, finally getting his shot now. You've got Joe Joyce there, Dubois, he'll be back. There's lots of people. We've signed a few great prospects. Nathan Gorman, he'll be out very soon as well, probably in March. And we've got young guys like Matty Harris, Hosea Stewart. Those are young boxers coming through. So there's a lot of very good heavyweights, out there who are coming through, and that's exciting to see. Fraser Clark from the Olympics, saw him sign with Sky and Boxer, and that he looks like he's a good prospect as well. I'm missing lots of names here, which is a great thing, because you tell me how long ago it was that you could walk down a high street and people could name more than 3 heavyweights, and now they can. You walk down the high street and ask Grandma Elsie, name me a few boxers from today, and I'm sure they can. You did that 6-7 years ago, they'd probably come up with Mike Tyson, Muhammad Ali, and they'd say some Russian, and he was actually a Ukrainian called Vladimir Klitschko. So but you know what I'm saying. It was unfortunately heavyweight boxing, due to the Klitschko era being so dominant. They were so good for that era, and yes, you can watch a craft being performed perfectly, but you prefer to watch an evenly balanced fight. I'm not saying that this generation, by the way, touches that of a Lennox Lewis and Holyfield Bowe generation. Not necessarily saying that before people start saying, no, I'm not saying that. Let's judge it after this era has gone, and then we can judge that. But let's look at the fights, and the fights that are happening at the moment, they're fantastic value. Fury Wilder was a Hollywood script, and we're going to get more of that this year. And I don't just think from those, not just from the Furies, the Usyks, the AJs, the Dillian Whytes. You've got that, as I said, you've got that second wave coming through into it now. And I truly believe that everyone on their day can beat everyone, and that's something that you want to see in the sport. For me, I've said it, and I'm very public about it. Is Fury is for me the king of the division at the moment, and knowing Tyson, since he turned that leaf in his book, he seems so determined and has such a positive mindset. He's going to be tough to topple, but he knows. He's the most fighting man in boxing. He comes out of a generational boxing fighting family, and he will know better than anyone that there's some strong waves coming. And I'm not talking from within only the Usyks, the Joshuas, the Whytes. There's more and more boxers coming through in the heavyweights, and that's fantastic to see.
Okay, yeah, let's discuss things that are going on in the heavyweight division. I will come on to some of your more fighters in a bit, in terms of Josh Kelly, Nathan Gorman, Linus Adophia, and see what's going on with them. But just to touch on the heavyweight division. So last week we had the conclusion of the purse bids, record-breaking 2 bids. Even the losing bid was a record-breaking bid. But obviously Frank Warren won out $41 million. What was your initial reaction to it?
My initial reaction was they broke our record, because we had the record.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, 23.3 million. Klitschko versus Povetkin. That was the highest bid fight for before that. So they broke our record. So no, I'm joking. I don't make much of the numbers. If you know the business, that you'll know that there will be behind closed doors. There will have been an agreement made with the fighters. So the true number is perhaps a bit lower, but still, they're incredible numbers. Hey, and you know what? They'll still do good business on those numbers. They will do, a lot of money on the pay-per-views, and they'll do a lot of money on the gate. And good on the fighters. And great the promoters stepped up. Like you said, the winning and the losing bids, fantastic. I personally would have liked to have seen what was planned. I personally would have liked to have seen Fury take on Usyk first. I think it would have built up the fights for both for Dillian and for AJ later on in the year. I think they would have. This sounds a bit strange, but they ultimately would have got more out of it. But especially from Dillian's point of view, 1,000 days of saying, okay, you've got to take in the Povetkin defeat into that, but still, he certainly has earned his shot, and it's great to see him get his shot. So that, as I said, you can't really lose in the heavyweights at the moment. There's just so many good fights out there. So, last year we didn't get AJ Fury. We ended up with Fury Wilder 3, and it was we certainly couldn't complain. And I see this year being even bigger for the heavyweights. I really do think there's some fantastic things going on, and I think it's great. It's great for the whole sport because it filters down. It's like the heavyweights are always going to be, the king's class, so to speak. We've been lucky in the years when the heavyweights haven't been as exciting as they are now, that there's been some fantastic characters in the other divisions. If you look at people like Canelo, obviously, and Floyd Mayweather, that's on the other side of the pond, of course. But also over here, great people carrying the torch. If you look at the likes of Carl Froch's or Mikkel Kessler's on the continent, so there's. The sport's been alive outside of the heavyweight division, but with the heavyweight division on top, it really does fire it up, and that's great to see.
And since those purse bids were concluded, we've heard a lot from Tyson, Bob, and Frank. We haven't heard anything from Dillian yet, and there are people worrying because contracts haven't been signed. Obviously, a purse bid is one thing, but then the contracts have to be signed. But from your point of view, you believe Dillian will take this fight with Tyson Fury?
Well, I would certainly imagine so for a record-breaking thing. I mean, let's touch wood. There's no injury issues or something like that. I mean, he's been after this title shot for a very, very long period of time, and that's whatever split it ends up with. It ain't a bad payday, is it? It's certainly his largest one to date, and I think it's a great fight for the fans, and for Dillian, it marks the end of campaigning for his world title shot. Dillian's done it the hard way. I've said it before. He's done it the hard way. He was in that position. You normally sit tight. The golden rule is sit tight, wait for your shot. Dillian didn't do that. He rolled the dice. He won, and then obviously had that night with Povetkin where he got caught, and the rest is all history now. He's in this position, so I fully expect him to take the fight. I think the world wants him to take the fight. We all want to see the fight, So, I wouldn't read into that too much.
Okay. Well, I hope you're right. Couldn't talk about the heavyweights and not mention your guy, Filip Hrgovic. So, how many people have rejected that letter from the IBF?
The full top 10 again for the third time. So, and listen, once again, to shut people up before they start saying, oh, but the money, listen, it's a purse bid, right? If you don't like the money, it goes to a purse bid. There's no money mentioned at this stage. It's not like the IBF, right, this is what you're getting, will you take the fight? No, it's you receive a letter. If you're in the top 10, you receive a letter from the IBF. In that letter, it says you have 72 hours to confirm whether you would like to fight Filip Hrgovic for the world title final eliminator. I.e., win that fight, you're fighting for the next. You're fighting on paper at the moment. You're fighting Usyk. But you have to rewind here. So this has been going on since last March. He's had to fight 2 tune-ups in the meantime. It's been a disaster. But this year, on 1st of January, we had Ortiz, Charles Martin, semi-final eliminator, because the winner was going to fight Hrgovic in the final eliminator. So they fight each other. They go through the whole promotion. Final eliminator. Ortiz knocks him out. Ortiz says in the ring afterwards, I'm looking forward to what's coming, fight the final eliminator, blah, 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 blah. 48 hours later, fight off. He don't want to fight Hrgovic. Now, I like Ortiz. I like the way he punches, and he's known as King Kong. I don't know. King Kong has clearly made a run for it. I didn't know King Kong ran away, but in this case ran away. And we then went through everyone else. What I don't quite understand is that people like Andy Ruiz, or who else is on that list? Joseph Parker, people that I have a lot of respect for as fighters. I don't know whether it's their advisors. I have no idea, because Hrgovic hasn't faced anyone yet as a pro, really. No one of that you would say, wow. There's no. So, on paper he's a bronze medalist from the Olympics. Gold medalist. But everyone in the scene knows about him. Everyone knows what he does, and everyone has seen him, in the World Series of Boxing, and they know what he brings. So the fear factor, I've never seen that before in the sport from someone who hasn't boxed anyone yet professionally. It's actually incredible, and it's not a money argument, because if it's a money argument, we have the purse bid. In fact, Ortiz would have even been on the higher end of the split. The purse bid's there to determine the value, your value. And by the way, if people say, oh, well, no one knows Hrgovic, that's funny, because in every interview I give, and I happen to give one or two occasionally, they ask about Filip Hrgovic. So in the meantime, he is, they talk about boogeymen of the division and this, that, and the other. I don't know of any other boogeyman than Filip Hrgovic in boxing at the moment. That is, it's phenomenal. I think that the ranking bodies need to look at this as a case study, and there has to be a rule change. It makes a mockery of the IBF rankings. It makes a total mockery. I mean, might as well. So what is it? I can go down the road and say, well, I'm ranked number 6 in the world. Fantastic. Whoa, he's ranked number 6 in the world. Well, he's ranked number 6 in the world, but he's not willing to fight someone to become the world champion. Right? Well, I mean, the whole ranking system is there to find mandatory challengers to keep movement in the division. Now, that hasn't been the case. A year ago, the IBF decided someone has to fight Filip Hrgovic to become the challenger for at the time, Anthony Joshua. A year later, we're sitting there. It's incredible. It's mind-blowing. And what I can't understand is that the people who, and I understand that certain people have commitments and they cannot take the fight. I understand that certain people are injured and they shouldn't take the fight. But the people who are available and turn down the fight, they must be thrown out of the rankings for a minimum of 12 months. There must be a punishment system, or else you can just sit there and wait. What's the point of that? And I'll tell you exactly what they're doing. The ones who aren't taking it, they're scared, but B, they're also sitting there with a good ranking, and it's marketable at the moment in heavyweights. You can sell a number 6 position boxer to fight a number 9, someone else who's much easier fight than Filip Hrgovic in a voluntary fight, and make good money out of it. So they're earning off that ranking position, but they're not willing to defend it. And that is wrong. That's wrong. It's wrong for the sport. It's wrong for explaining our anyways complicated sport by having a ranking system that's not working, because the ranking system isn't there like tennis. It's not to determine he's around the number 11 in the world or whatever. It's not like that. The ranking system is to determine that how close you are to receiving a mandatory challengers are either between 9 months and 12 months. That's the rulings, depends on the governing body, and that is there to keep that division moving. I.e., a champion can't just go out and fight voluntaries the whole time. He has to fight his mandatory. But if you are not respecting that, you are holding up the whole of the weight class. So we're down to now Dempsey McKean from Australia and Zhang from China. We've heard all along from the people around Zhang that he will take this fight. The first reaction was when the letter arrived, they need 24 hours longer for translation of the letter, which I don't know. I don't know if there's a Chinese word for Filip Hrgovic, but I'm sure having Eddie promotes him, so Eddie's translating it for him because Eddie's very good at Chinese. So, while Eddie is explaining to him in Chinese what it says in the letter, that letter says, "Do you want to fight Filip Hrgovic? 72 hours time. Tick tock, tick tock." Yeah, and I do believe he'll take the fight because
what are we on now?
We're on. We got the extra 24 in, so we should theoretically by tomorrow night. So. We'll be talking this weekend a lot, so I will let you know as soon as I know.
Is that not a worry that he's asked for 24 hours for translation?
No, because a lot of them just turn it down within 12 hours. So actually, that's quite a positive sign that he's considering it. Dempsey McKean, but no idea. They've had it offered to them in the past. They then said at the time, we're going back now 12 months. There's people who've turned it down, by the way, and they haven't had a fight in between. Because they're still sitting there waiting for an easy money ticket. They're thinking, no, this fight is too. I'm not saying they're even scared. Maybe that's wrong. But they're looking for the easy money. Hrgovic ain't the easy money. But beat him. And by the way, as I said, he's undefeated as a pro, but he hasn't fought anyone as a pro yet. So fight him and get that mega lotto, toto, whatever you want to call it, lottery ticket to fight for the world champion. And by the way, then you're talking $40 million purse bids. Dillian Whyte, you've just done it. All you got to do, beat Filip Hrgovic, you might be in the next 40 million jackpot.
And the IBF are very strict.
But the IBF, there's no messing around. Ask Tyson. He had his belts taken off him on the Monday after the Klitschko fight. So, I mean, from that point of view, it is a no-brainer. But
do you think the heavyweights talk and say, let's freeze Hrgovic out?
Between the promoters or the...
Oh, yeah. Promoters, management, fighters.
Because they're all different promoters and they're all different boxers. But you know what? There has been a night or two, and Filip thinks there's some sort of conspiracy theory very often as well. But, I mean, eventually there has to be mandatory. I mean, if we go through again, we will be going to the IBF and saying, make the guy mandatory now. Yeah? I mean, if you can't find someone who's going to fight him, they have to make him mandatory.
Will you do that after this one?
Yeah, we legally have to do it. I mean, if you look at it this way, they are the system is a fantastic system at the IBF. They stick to the rules, very, very timelines, so you know where you stand. But in this case, the system isn't working, and really, we've been frozen out of earning him a crust, and our investment at crust, by the way, I'm not going to say it's just one-sided. It's for us. We've invested money into the fight as well. And we're sitting there, and he hasn't been able to box for over a year. Oh, no. Actually, I'm exaggerating. A year. Exactly a year. Other fights were planned. We had network contracts. We haven't fought. We've had 2 tune-ups, one on the undercard in Vegas and one on a show that we put on at short notice in Klagenfurt, Austria. So, further investments. We've been sitting there waiting for this supersonic final eliminator. We've had Michael Hunter put us through. I'm not going to go through that one again. I've done that enough. But we all know that story. But the thing is, we need action. You know, and hopefully Zhang takes the fight, or McKean takes the fight. If not, I don't see any other option than to make him immediately the mandatory challenger.
Well, hopefully when Eddie's speaking in Mandarin now to Zhang.
I can't wait for that conversation between Eddie and Zhang. I would love to be a fly on the wall for that one. I have heard Eddie's Chinese, ordering Chinese, and it's not too bad. Let's hope he gets it right.
Well, we'll have a catch-up about Filip Hrgovic in 24 hours, Friday night. Kalle, let me get updates from you then about your stable. Let's start with Linus Adophia. We know purse bids were ordered for him and Denzel Bentley. Yes. What is the situation?
So we're basically going back and forth with Queensberry, his promoters, and you know we've worked very well over the years with Frank and family, and hopefully we can find a deal. We're happy to put it on. They seem to be happy to put it on. At the end, I think will boil down to is who can put it on economically best. Let's put it that way. Who can come up with the most money? It doesn't reflect on power or anything like that. It might be that it fits into one card better than another. I think it's almost a standalone fight. I think it's a fantastic fight. I think Linus, although it's a tough fight, I think for me Linus is a favourite, slight favourite, but a favourite, and he gets through that. And that old expression, "the world is your oyster." But Linus is for me a fantastic talent. But that fight is career making. It's a big one. It's a big fight. So very, very excited about that.
Okay. Talk about Josh Kelly. So what is the situation with him? I've heard no news about Josh Kelly.
Josh will be out most likely in April. We are announcing in the next 10 days our whole calendar all the way up to May. Some pretty big news in the pipeline, which will be breaking in the next 5 to 10 days, I would say. It's good news. It's good news, and people are going to be happy about it. And so the calendar, which includes also Germany, Australia, Scandinavia, unfortunately, no Latvia. I know you love a trip to Latvia. We are taking the deer, Myris, Briedis, down to Australia, which we'll be making an announcement on shortly. Keep him out of Jake Paul's way, which hopefully is not one of your questions today. But I can see you grinning.
You just reminded me, actually.
Yeah. I'm trying to get out of these ones. And so we've got a fantastic calendar to announce, and I think we were about to do it this week, and then we said no. This is the big Eubank week, and towards the second half of next week, I think we'll be putting out the full calendar, and there you will see some fantastic boxing. Looking really, really forward to it. It does feel like this. I know that there's still terrible infection rates and death rates and everything, but I do feel we're getting to the end of this shit.
Okay, that's one way of putting it. Look forward to news on Josh Kelly. Nathan Gorman, I'm guessing he's going to be involved in those cards that you just spoke about, Nathan? Yeah,
Nathan will be out in March on one of the cards. He wants to go straight back in the deep end, which we've almost got to pull him back a little bit. He's very, very bullish. Hopefully some sort of international title, get him into those rankings. He was saying to me the other day, he said he doesn't understand, he can't work out that, we'll go back to the Hrgovic, he said he can't work out that Hrgovic thing. He said, if I was in the rankings, I'd fight him. And he was being serious. Nathan is someone who is very, very, first of all, he's a proper solid fella outside the ring. He's just a really, really likeable guy. But secondly, he's a real boxer. He's knows his craft. There's nothing sort of self-taught. He hasn't picked up his gloves in the last 2 years and tried to learn boxing. I predict big things for him, and he'll be out in March. Hopefully, we get him well ranked very quickly and get him in the mix of things.
Listen, what about the Fabio Wardley fight?
Yeah, I mean, we'd love to do that. Spoke to Matchroom about that end of last year. We're going to do our own thing for the next fight, and then maybe we can do that for the summer. Can do it in Eddie's villa, or we can do it at my in my castle. Do it in one of the two.
Kalle, you reminded me about Myris Briedis.
I knew I should have done that. We were all going through boxes. Now I got you on the Myris Briedis.
What's he doing?
Yeah, listen. So better ask Myris that. No, I mean, first of all, let's all get a grip on ourselves. Let's get a bit of humour in here, because we haven't got a tattoo of Jake Paul on our legs. He sent it to me at the beginning of the year. Before it went out, he said, "What do you think about this?" And I'll be totally honest with you. I was out with my son and we were where it was sunny where we were, and I've looked at the phone. I couldn't quite see what it was, and I'm a bit blind, so I have to wear reading glasses. I didn't have them with me, so I've given it to my son. My son's gone, "Oh, Daddy's got a Jake Paul tattoo." So I said, "Oh yeah, it's one of those peel-off ones, isn't it?" So I've called him up. I said, "Morris, I haven't seen it properly yet, but what is this?" "Ah, I got a karma tattoo for Jake." And now I love a bit of ink. I've got quite a bit of ink myself, but I've got a few interesting ones, but I don't have a Jake Paul one, and I certainly won't be getting one. But there are, of course, ways of lasering these things off these days and covering up. But he's gone out and got a bloody Jake Paul tattoo. So I'm thinking, oh God, right. And I thought we buried the Jake Paul thing last year. It started as a bit of fun because he called me up and said, "It can't be that this guy wants to fight a champion." And I said, "No, he doesn't." But then Jake Paul kept on saying he wants to be a world champion. So, and he put two and two together, like, Myris does. And he believes that Jake Paul wants to fight a world champion. And I said, "Myris, in a month of Sundays, he's not going to fight you." But he hasn't reacted. So he must be thinking, who is this psychopath, like lunatic, three-time world champion, Ring Magazine champion, some of the best showreel knockouts from Briedis. Go look at Briedis, Manuel Char. The current heavyweight champion of the world says his hardest fight up till now was Briedis, Usyk, that is. Many people thought Briedis beat Usyk. And now, so, yeah, you're going to pick a soft touch. You're going to go straight for Briedis. I said, "Myris, it's not going to happen." He said, "Yes, but he wants to fight champion, so I'm going to tell him." He's So now he's come up with this rap about monkey balls and squirrel balls and porn dolls and this, that, and the other, and Pornhub girls. I thought the rap was quite good, actually. I've got to say, I enjoyed the rap, and but this is how he likes doing these things. He's very creative on them, to give it to him.
Listen, we're here talking about Myris.
And that's the point. That's where I'm trying to lead this to, is his relevance, because let's not forget, he's a Latvian cruiserweight, three-time world champion. Cruiserweights, I've had so many cruiserweight world champions. Difficult weight class to... you win it, and then you go up to heavyweight. The David Hayes, the Bellew recently, Usyk, Evander Holyfield. So it's got a bit of a history of that, but it's actually got some of the toughest fighters in the world in that division. Seen that in the World Boxing Super Series. So I just feel that he's looked at it and he feels that he's taking the piss out of the sport. And I explained to him, look, no. I think you're reading too much into the hype, but Myris is very creative like that and has gone and done it. And why? Listen, but everyone is talking about it. It's not an interview you do where it's not asked about Jake Paul and Briedis. It's a very very crazy one. But on the other hand, it still builds Myris's name in a strange way outside. I think inadvertently the Briedis-Okolie fight has got a lot bigger in the UK. Maybe we get Jake Paul as a referee. And I do think that fight happens this summer, by the way. Not the Jake Paul fight, the Okolie fight.
Okay, good. Just a question that's actually popped back into my mind about Eubank and Williams. Can you just confirm whether there's a rematch clause or not?
I thought I'd get away with that one. I first of all, I gave you the Jake Paul one on the plate. Can I confirm it? Can we do this after the fight? Can we discuss the point after the fight? I think that point we'll discuss after the fight. All I can tell you is that Junior and Williams have two separate contracts, just so that people understand. Junior doesn't see Williams' contract. Williams doesn't see Junior's contract. That's a business agreement with the people who handle the management team around Williams, and that is how it works in a fight contract. It's not like we all sign one page and everything. So the and I as a promoter have to ensure if there is a dodgy decision, if there is an injury, if there's a slip, if there's a twisted knee. By the way, these are all things that I've seen before with my own eyes. If there is someone hitting his elbow against a television camera that happens just to be too close and the fight has to be stopped, is it, whatever. Things happen in boxing, and so my answer will come after the fight, but I hope most of your viewers have got the gist already.
So we'll be speaking Friday night and Saturday night. It's good to hear, Kalle. And my last question, don't worry, matters away from you. It's all good. Just wanting your opinion, reaction to some news today. Of course, we were expecting Dazn to take over BT Sport. Those talks have collapsed, and BT Sport are going to do a partnership with Discovery, or a joint venture, it said, and Eurosport. So thoughts on that to close off the interview?
I think first of all, and I've been on the road or in interviews since 6:30 a.m. So I got told the news in the car when I was driving up here. My chauffeur had the day off, so I had to drive myself. So I was actually driving. So I've only been told what's. So all I can say from what I understand is that it's not a done deal with Discovery. They are in some sort of exclusive negotiation period, and it says that the Dazn deal collapsed, but I don't. And once again, I don't know. I haven't seen comments from any side. I haven't spoken to anyone at Dazn or Discovery or wherever today. For the industry, of course, it's interesting to see Discovery making a move into the UK market. Discovery, by the way, for people who aren't into the broadcasting business, is basically Eurosport as well. So it's not like it's a new player; it's a new entity in the UK. If they would come in at that level, so that of course is very big news. But I don't know. I just once again, I'm talking like a fan here. I'm someone looking at the outside. I don't know if it's a last minute play that maybe Dazn is coming in, but to make Dazn go higher or in the deal. But I don't even know what sort of deal I'm talking about here. So I'd say that I think that Dazn is doing a fantastic job in boxing. I hope that something like this wouldn't hamper that. I can't see why it would. But at the same time, if the Discovery is going into the UK market, that's of course very interesting news as well.
Just for boxing fans, to just break this down and the implications for boxing. So just put yourselves in Queensberry's shoes. Say you had a deal with BT Sport and then you were doing a joint venture with Discovery and Eurosport. How does that affect you and boxing and the fans?
Well,
what does that actually entail?
Yeah, once again, I'm putting myself into a very theoretical situation. So no lawsuits, please, Frank. Frank or Queensberry have a license agreement with BT Sport, I would assume, and BT Sport was in the process of being sold, or now we hear joint ventured into a new business relationship, which will be either with Dazn or with Discovery. I don't make too much of the whole boxing thing. I think we look at it very much from a boxing dynamic. When I tell you that the boxing budgets probably make up about 6 minutes of one Premier League match annually. So let's not get, I think that people see this almost as like a bit of boxing news, and we're talking about billion dollar deals here. I mean, the Champions League rights alone are £1 billion a year. For a cycle, which is 3 years. So I think that the whole Frank, Eddie, Dazn thing That's very nice, but I think the owners and the board at Dazn and the boards at BT and Discovery couldn't. I'm not going to say they couldn't give two tosses about boxing, but I think right now I don't think that boxing is at the forefront of their minds. But what the difference is, of course, is for Frank is who he's negotiating his extension with, his next deal with, if he's staying with BT, whatever it is. That's Frank's business, but that would be the biggest change. Would be then he would be dealing with either with BT and Dazn, just Dazn, or with Discovery and BT now. But what I would say is I don't think also, that there's always the little inside boxing world, but you mustn't forget there's good fighters at BT now. There's some great fighters at BT. Tyson Fury's at BT now. So there's valuable rights, boxing rights at BT already. So it's not like there's a new player in town. The question is, of course, if Discovery comes in, do they up the ante on boxing? Do they push it harder? That you'd hope that they even get more behind boxing. Like I've always say, even if it doesn't mean the dollar's going into my pocket or my fighter's pocket. The more money in this game, it all trickles down in one way, shape or form into the most important part of the game. That's the grassroots, because without the grassroots coming up through boxing, we talk, by the way, I'll make now one last sidetrack. You look at these two big female fights planned. You look at the World Boxing Super Series going into the female division as well this year. And look at Clarissa Shields today made a very, very, I thought, beautiful speech at the press conference. Very, 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 very. She seems a great lady. Unified, 2 weight classes. That is, that's insane. But you see you will see the effect of Katie Taylor, Serrano. Savannah Marshall, Clarissa Shields, these fights, that the effect will be in 3-4 years' time when the girls now, they don't choose to play football, volleyball, netball, swimming, or judo, whatever it is, they pick up a pair of gloves and go boxing. And we'll see how many turn pro in 4, 5, 6 years' time. And that pool of fighters, female fighters, that's for me, the whole female boxing movement, revolution, whatever you want to call it is, yeah. Because I've been promoting female boxing since a couple of decades, yeah. Massive viewing numbers in Germany, in Scandinavia. It's a fantastic sport. The depth has always been the issue. You haven't been able to get the fights for the big champions where you really got those 50-50 fights. Now you're getting them because you see the pool of fighters has increased and it's going to go from strength to strength.
Okay, Kalle Sauerland, thank you very much for your time here on IFL TV in Cardiff. I will speak to you once the letter from the IBF has been translated for Zhang. I want to get a catch up now.
I'm looking forward to the Chinese version. Looking forward. Imagine the contracts. I mean, if we're waiting for 24 hours for a two paragraph letter to be translated, I'd hate to see how long it's going to take for the contract to be done. We'll be fighting in 2026.
Thank you very much, Kalle.